All right, looks like we are live. Today we got a on the market deal for 908 Burrow Street. Let's see. Let's double check the volume really quick. Okay, so this property was in 35221 zip code. I just kind of picked the most expensive area here. Most expensive property, 115 grand. Okay. So this property looks relatively turnkey. I would say it appears as if, yeah, it's pretty much renovated, pretty much turnkey. 800 square feet is a little small, but let's go ahead and go with it, okay? So let's take a quick look at street view. I like that these homes look okay. It's not like they're more like this home looks, yeah, that home looks recently renovated. So it's always a good sign to see recently renovated or recently updated homes on the same street. Pretty suburban. I don't notice anything big issues, just no red flags I'm looking for. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is I want to get the fair. Do they teach staging in realtor school? I'm not sure what they teach, to be honest, in realtor school. Is it just contract law? Jefferson County. All right. So we're going to how to FMR. And how to get the small area FMR? We're going to get to small area FMRs. Look up F2024 FMRs, Alabama, and we're in Jefferson County. Okay, now this property is 3521, so I want to get the rent ceiling first. 35221. You see right here that the rent ceiling here is 1420. Let's write that one down. 1420 for 3-bedroom, and a 4-bedroom is 1590, and this is for 3521. All right, so I'm gonna put that down there. Just writing down these numbers since my partners already know how to write. Okay, then we want to get the market rent. Now, affordablehousing.com, go to the owner section, market rent estimator, plug in the address, plug in bedroom count, and you're gonna see here that the market rent is $1,578. That's really high. Now, the only thing I'm worried about is that it says, for some reason, if you remember how we've been underwriting, usually this number on the bottom right here, it gives you the average rent for 25 units. But today, the database is only giving us 9 units. So that doesn't give me as big of a sample size that I've been used to. So, and because this number is bigger than the rent ceiling, I just want to be super, super careful about this one. I don't want to just assume that that is the be all end all. So let me go ahead and take a quick look at this property here. Now, I'm also going to look at the rents for 4-bedroom and see what's happening. Now, see right here, when I put in 4 bedrooms, it went to 25 units within a 3.67 mile radius. 3.67 is a pretty wide radius, but this got me to 25 units. So it makes me wonder that something is going on with how it was pulling data for the 3-bedroom properties, 1339. And 1339 seems maybe a little bit more realistic because 1578 seems really high for Birmingham. I don't usually see rents that high. And then you're also missing some data here. So something wonky is going on with the website today, and I don't know what. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to get a little creative. We're going to dig a little bit deeper, right? Because at 1339, you're beating the 1% rule. So that kind of tells you like, hey, this might be a deal. So let's go to Zillow. So when I go to Zillow, I kind of quickly put in the zip code. I put in for rent. I put in the filter for 3-bedroom properties. And I found a couple of properties there. So let's see, look at this one. This property is 3-bed, 2-bath, so slightly bigger than our property. And it's 1,015 square feet, so almost 2% bigger than our property. I would say the condition of this home is comparable to ours. Ours might be even a little bit more renovated, but here's the number I'm looking for. This property has been listed for 2 days, and there's 11 contact. So usually when you see a 1-1 ratio, that's typically when it's indicative that the rental price might be, if you can use the word, fairly priced. But when you see that there's been more contacts than the number of days listed, then now all of a sudden you might think that this property is underpriced. And at 1265, that's kind of in line with a 1339. But because this property, one, is bigger than our property with an extra bathroom, I might be inclined to just underwrite this property at 1175. And obviously, if you think if you could get higher, go ahead and take a look at it. I just know that I have another friend in here, another property in this area for a 3-bed, also renovated, and he's renting out for 1175 right now. So 1175, 1200 doesn't seem that far-fetched anymore. Let's look at some other properties here. 850, that looks really old, 3-bed, 2-bath. Let's see. This is 1,000 a month at 1306. So that's a relatively big house. Okay condition, not modern, but okay. And this property has been updated on the market for 17 days, and there's been 27 contacts. So I can confidently say that, hey, our property is slightly nicer, but this one's slightly bigger. So maybe $1,000 is my floor for this property. So let's underwrite it using a few different scenarios, okay? All right. And don't forget about a rent reasonableness test, right, guys? So if you guys ever come across a rent number that's lower than the FMR, you have to take what's available on the market, which is what we're doing right now on Zillow, right? Because the rent reasonableness test states that in conducting rent reasonableness, the PHA, which stands for the Public Housing Authority, must determine whether the rent to the owner is a reasonable rent in comparison to rent for other comparable unassisted units. So in determining comparable rents, you must use location, quality, size, unit type, age, etc. So on this property, when I saw in this zip code, at least, that there are a few properties, let's see, this is $1,500 a month, but it's a 5-bed, 2-bath, so that's not really comparable. Ours is a 3-bed, 1-bath. This property is a 1,200. Okay, 3-bed, 1-bath at 1,200. This is probably more in line with our property. Our home might look nicer than this, but at 1,200, just 100 square feet bigger, you can tell that this property is listed for 15 days and only have 1 contact. So for some reason, this property at this price at 1,200 for 960 square feet is only getting 1 contact. You can argue that maybe the finisher doesn't look as nice, but I would say 1,175, $1,200 is probably the max I would go for, because the other property at 1,300 is kind of second floor, but then it's also 20% bigger. So I'm looking at roughly a range between 1,175 to 1,200 for our property right now. This property is 1,265, but I can probably monitor it. Honestly, I don't think $50 a month should make or break your deal, but let's take a quick look at it, right? All right, so let's plug in the numbers. So this property is listed for purchase price $115,000, 115,000. Okay, what are we doing? This is a relatively turnkey project. I don't think I need to replace much. Maybe I'll just set aside some money just in case there's an issue with the roof or something like that where I can't see in the photo. So I might just leave aside like $1,500 for the roof. And again, just DM me your email on Instagram at InvestWithKenHe. If you guys want to copy the spreadsheet, I'm getting my website set up too, so it'll make that process a lot easier. It should be up and running in like 2 days. I'm not painting anything because I'm assuming this is really and completely renovated. I'm assuming everything else is working, so I'm just setting aside about $2,000 for rehab. Actually, let me set aside about $500 for the landscaping because we don't want to get it overgrown out in front. Okay, so now I got $2,500 of rehab. Just set that aside. Okay, $1,175 is what I'm using for rent. That's my bottom case scenario. I'm gonna do a roughly 25% down payment on this property. So I'm gonna do equals the asking price multiplied by the down payment in this scenario. There's no more assignment. I got 2% for closing costs, so $2,300, $2,400 for the renovations reserve. I might bump it up to 2.5%, to be honest with you here, just because it's such a low purchase price. 2.5%. And it's going to differ by market, right? Okay. So then my mortgage is going to be equals to my asking price subtracted by my cash or seller. And that's going to be roughly around 8% right now. 30 years, start the loan on May 1st, just using rough easy dates here. And what am I going to get for property taxes? Property taxes is $68 a month equals 68. Seems a little low, but all right. $89 for homeowner insurance. I'm going to bump that up to $100 because that's what I'm paying for my property in Fairfield nearby. So I got 10% for my maintenance. No HOA. I got property manager's 10% right now. So I'm bumping back up to 10% in this area. I got 5% for vacancy, and this is going to result in a positive cash flow of $80.38. Okay, so let's write down the scenario down. A 3-bed renting out for $11.75 will cash flow you $80, and that's going to equal to roughly a cash on cash return percentage of 2.8%. So positive cash flow, that's okay. $115,000. I was assuming your rehab was $2,400, and your down payment was 25%. Okay, and assuming your mortgage rate was 8% too. All right, now let's say I got to my quote unquote best case scenario because I saw that, hey, this property at $1,265, it does rent out pretty quickly. This is a 3-bed, 2-bath, so maybe I can get to $1,250 as my max best case scenario. At $1,250, what does that result in? At $1,250, a 3-bedroom, I'll be cash flowing $137 roughly, and that would be a 4.8% return. Okay, so that's still not a deal for me because I'm looking for at least a 10% return. Again, this is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments here. I'm just showing you guys the work and how my thought process goes. So if I assume my best case scenario is $1,250, what price do I need to buy this property at to make this a 10% return, right? Because this is for every single property, there is a number that makes it a deal. So if I lower this to, let's say, $95,000, and pay attention to what happens to this cash and cash return as I do it. Boom, 10.48. So I would not buy this property $115,000, but if this person was willing to go for $95,000 and I can get $1,250, right? Now all of a sudden I can get $247 of cash flow a month, and that'll be a 10.3% cash and cash return. And now all of a sudden that meets my criteria. Okay. Now, if it was $11.75, right? Let's say you talk to a local property manager and they say, hey, your house is kind of small. I don't really think you can get $1,250. How about $11.75? Well, if that's the case, then let's lower the purchase price. So $88,000. Boom, there you go. So if my rent is $11.75, right? I'm still a 3-bedroom. I'll be cashing $229, and that'll be a 10.3% cash and cash return. But I would have to buy for $88,000. Okay. This is the exercise I really want everyone to learn. I do not invest in assisted living, but if you ever want to learn about assisted living, I do have a great podcast on my page in case you ever do want to watch it. It's on youtube.com/@Kent_HE. And if you can look for the episode with Patrick Legginsoff, great podcast. We ask a lot of questions, but that's just not my personal mission right now. So $88,000. So that's the whole point, right? If your rent is $11.75, what price do you want to buy this property at to make this a deal, quote unquote, for you? If your return criteria was 10%, if yours is 8% or 15%, I would just adjust up and down the purchase price to get it to the set of terms that you are looking for personally. Okay. So that's the exercise today, guys. So it's not a deal at $115, but depending on the rent I'm able to get, and you can probably decide like, hey, maybe I would go talk to a property manager or someone has experience out there locally. If they believe I can get $11.75, then I should go make an offer at $88,000, right? If they believe that I can get $12.50, well, now I'm also willing to give up to $95,000 for this property. That's just the different levers you can pull in a deal to figure out what is the right sort of term, set of terms that allows you to buy the property at your desired price. Okay. So let's just recap really quick. Today, we went to an area. We've just found a nice turnkey property, recently renovated. We got all these numbers. We checked out the condition of the property. We got the FMR and we saw that was $1,420, which is the rent ceiling. But when we went to affordablehousing.com, we saw that the market rent for a 3-bed was at $1,578. And we thought this was a little wonky because they only gave me 9 units in here. So usually we see 25 units. So that was a little weird. And when you saw that the bedroom count went to 4 bedrooms, that made it even lower, which is typically not the trend you typically see, right, in a normal market, because usually as bedroom counts go higher, the rents typically go higher in proportion or in some sort of general trend. Because we didn't see this, we went a little bit deeper, and we actually got to go deeper into the zip code and just look for similar properties. We just went to Zillow, we clicked on for rent, and we found some properties that are 3-bed, and we saw this property for $1,300, and we said, okay, well, this property is in pretty high demand because it's only been listed for 2 days, and there's been 11 contacts for this property. However, this property has one extra bathroom, and it's about 200 square feet bigger than our property, right? This is 864, this is 1015, so 150 square feet bigger. And we thought that that doesn't really make any sense. And so this becomes our cap, right? Even though we saw that the bedroom count here was 1578, right? That triggered me to say, hey, let me go spend a little bit more time digging a little bit deeper into the market to figure out whether or not this is real. Because 1578, that beats the 1% rule. And that's how I knew, hey, this is worth my time to spend a little bit deeper in this analysis. And that's what we did. We went to this market. We tried to figure out, like, hey, in general, I know that if it's been listed for 2 days and it got 2 contacts, that's probably reasonable. But when it's been listed for 2 days, but there's been 11 contacts, now all of a sudden that shows me that there is a much higher demand for a property of this square footage, location, etc. And it's likely underpriced, because if you got that many contacts in just 2 days, that means other people in the market who have been looking for a rental see this as also a potentially good deal. So that's something that you want to figure out. And that's just a rough rule of thumb, just to kind of gauge it. So after we got all these numbers in, we plugged it in and we just played around with the numbers. So we said, hey, if 1175 is a rent, because I know folks in this area that have a 3-bedroom in this exact zip code, maybe less than like 3 to 5 minute drive from this property here, that they're renting out their 3-bed for 1175. So that seems like a pretty good floor, and that seems to be in line with what I saw in the market. But at 1175, at 115 grand, this is not a deal, because you're only cash flowing $80 a month after all your expenses between maintenance, property management, and also vacancy. So in order for this to be a deal, you have to lower the total purchase price to $88,000 just to get to my 10% cash on cash return. And that's how you adjust up or down the purchase price. And obviously, if you want to adjust other levers, you can double the rehab. Let's say you got an inspection and it became super, super expensive. Let's say now the rehab is tripled and your rehab is now $7,200. Well, now all of a sudden you can't afford to pay $88,000 anymore, because your cash on cash return just went down to 8.75%. If it tripled, you might have to pay, let's see, $82,000. Yes, so that comes off right off your purchase price. So if your rehab all of a sudden went to $7,200, you can now only afford to pay $82,000. So this is what I mean by removing the fear from the equation. Because if you just stick to just the math and you stick to your criteria, you can get that inspection. And you can say, oh no, it turned out to be way more expensive. Well, okay, well now you know what to negotiate. Your offer might have been $88,000 because that was previously your acceptable purchase price. But now all of a sudden, because your rehab tripled from $2,400 to $7,200, you now are only willing and able to offer the price of $82,000. And if not, then you can exit the deal, right? So tons of different options. But this is all the steps that you might want to consider to decide what is the deal and take the emotions out of it. All right. Amazing. So hopefully this was helpful for everybody. We do this every single day for a reason. I'm simply showing you guys the work every single day on a daily basis to making this happen. And my only goal here is for you to copy what I'm doing. Use the same property today. Use the same spreadsheet. Just DM me your email on Instagram at InvestorKenHe, and my teammate, Pia, will send it over to you later. But put it on your own YouTube channel, so you can build the confidence that you know what you're doing when the time comes, especially when it comes time for you to pull a trigger. Because the only way you're going to get over that fear is by having an undeniable track history that you know what you're doing. And the only way you can prove to yourself that you know what you're doing is by looking at your own YouTube channel. And you can put it on unlisted so nobody else sees it except for yourself. But use that as your own resume. Use it as your own resume for your partners and your friends, because they're going to ask you, why do you think this is a deal? And you can tell them you know it's a deal because you've been looking at deals for the past 233 days, and they've all been not deals, except for a few different scenarios. So have an amazing Monday, everybody. Hope you guys spent some quality time with your family and friends today. I'll be back here again tomorrow for day 234. And you guys ever want to watch the full YouTube version, just go to youtube.com/@Kent_HE. I'll see you all tomorrow. Have an amazing day, everybody.